everybody. Today I'm going to review Bessey's WS-3 and WS-6 90-degree angle clamps. Now these are really designed to be mounted to a bench, and they sell special brackets. With the smaller one that I found at the Home Depot, they actually came with the two brackets that you're going to need to install this to a bench, and then with the larger one you must purchase them separately. But they do work exactly the same way. And what I've actually been doing with these recently is building a lot of birdhouses because it can hold the two pieces together, so I can drill holes or fasten them and make sure all the angles are correct. So what I want to do in this video is give you some closer up looks at both different models, and then we're going to see how they actually perform. Here's a closer up look at the two different clamps, as well as the mounting clamps that you need to attach those to a workbench. You can see that the WS-6 is a much larger variety, and then the WS-3 is really designed for smaller material, such as the thin wood that I use in these birdhouses. Now, something like this would be better if you were building furniture or maybe picture frames, and then for the smaller, more delicate work, this one would do absolutely fine. And it's actually one that I use a lot more than the larger one. Now, I do want to point out that they have the same exact mounting holes. And what's really different between the two of them, other than their size, is the fact that the larger one does have a little hook on the top of it that's going to allow you to hang that on a nail on the wall or even on your pegboard. And then it also has the option for putting a screw in the back and then hanging on the wall like that in either direction. Now, the smaller one does not have that option. It does not have the hang hook nor any way to hang this on the wall, and really the only way I've found to hang it really effectively is to slightly open it up and then use some pegboard pegs. Another major difference between the WS-6 and the WS-3 is the fact that the WS-3, the only way to open and close it is to spin the handle one direction or the other. There's no quick release option, and to go to maximum capacity you must unscrew this fully, and then to go all the way shut you must screw it in the opposite direction. Now there is an upgrade with the WS-6 because the jaw in this, at least the one that moves, is also going to be a quick release jaw. So you can see once it does clear the initial housing, we'll move it right out of the way, and once it clears we can go ahead and just press it down. It's going to slide open and slide shut very easily. Now the only time you need to screw it in is when this little point here meets the static jaw, and then you do have to screw that in the rest of the way to tighten it up fully. But this does make it a lot easier for those quick adjustments, especially when you're dealing with different size materials. Now, as far as using these to attach two different pieces of wood together when you need to fasten them, you can use this just loosely. So you can just really set it on the bench and not attach it to the workbench. But I find it's much easier to use these when you actually do attach them to a workbench with the included clamps. Now, these two clamps are included with the WS-3, like I said, when I bought this at the Home Depot. And then the larger WS-6, this is a separate item that you're going to need to purchase. It is not included with the larger model. However, the clamps are exactly the same between the two of these. So what I want to show you now is how easy that can attach. And you can see there's a hole here and a hole here. Also in the larger one, you can see the two holes in the front. You'll just take the clamp, slide it right into place, and then just tighten it down. You'll do the same thing with the other side, and they are fully adjustable depending on the thickness of the table that you're trying to attach this to. And even if it's very thin material, like the side wing on a table saw, you can just run those all the way in, and it's still going to attach exactly the same way. Now that I've tightened those down, everything's locked into place, and it's ready to go. The primary reason that I originally got one of these is the fact that I like to build birdhouses. Now when you do this and you try to eyeball it, you never really get the angles straight. So having the 90-degree clamp allows me to take two boards, place them in there, and with just a simple turn of the handle, it clamps everything down. I can then take the air nailer, line it up, shoot a couple nails in there, and now the boards are fastened together. Let's say you're building something and you want to attach two boards together, but you don't want to do it right on the corner. You actually want to attach one in the center of the other one. We can take one board, place it in the clamp, take the second board, place it in there, and then just holding the two together, we're going to twist this knob. Everything's going to be locked down and it would be ready to fasten. And just checking this angle with a square, you can see there's absolutely no air gaps whatsoever, and everything is perfectly square, and this is a perfect 90-degree angle. Now alternatively, let's say you're working with boards of two different thicknesses. Because this is designed to pivot and attach two different thicknesses of materials, whether that's boards or maybe a board and a piece of plexiglass, it's also very easy to get your perfect angles with this also. So we'll take our thinner board, place it in there, just pivot the actual little arm over. Take our thicker board, place it up against it, twist the handle, everything's going to be locked down, and taking that same square, you can see this also has a perfect 90-degree angle. Another nice feature of the clamps, especially with the WS-6, is when you're dealing with larger material like this 2x4. Now I've already cut this at a 45-degree angle, so I'll go ahead and take the two pieces, line them up in the clamp, go ahead and just twist it shut, and you can see at this point everything is held together nice and tight at a perfect 90-degree angle. So I could go ahead and drill this out, screw it together, and especially if you were going to build a picture frame, for example, this would make it a lot easier to get those perfect angles. As far as storing these when you're not using them, I really like using a pegboard because everything has very easy access. I can hang everything up and it keeps it off the workbench. Now you could keep these in a toolbox, but just keep in mind they are fairly thick, especially the WS-6. The WS-3 is not quite that thick, but I don't really think it would still fit in a shallow toolbox drawer, and you would really be left to leaving that out on your workbench full time. But because the WS-6 does have that little loop on the top, I'll hang it on a pegboard peg. But if you don't have a pegboard, or maybe you don't like pegboards, you can just put a nail on the wall, and it does have little openings on the back that it could hang in place also. So I'll go ahead, pop that on one peg. You can see it is actually too deep. I'll take the little clamps that hold them to the table, and because they also have a little loop on the top, they're going to fit right on a peg. And then finally the WS-3, although it does not have a loop or any holes on the back for mounting, all I'll do with that is slightly open it up so you can see a gap on both sides, and it'll slide over a double peg with no problem. So at this point, everything's out of the way, and let's say I want to assemble something, I can easily take it right down, attach it to the workbench, and then I'd be ready to go. So now you've seen Bessey's 90-degree angle clamps for yourself. And like I said at the beginning of the video, they do have these with two different sizes, the smaller WS-3 and then the larger WS-6. And really the main difference between the two of them, other than a size capacity, is the fact that the WS-6 does have a few more upgrades over the WS-3. And that really is the mounting options, like the screw bosses on the back, the little hanging hook that I hang it from a pegboard, but you could also hang it from a nail or let's say a hook in your van. And also the fact that this does have that quick release jaw. So when you're using this and you're dealing with different size materials, it can open and shut a lot faster than the WS-3, that really you only have the option of unscrewing it or screwing it in all the way. So this does not have the quick release jaw, the larger one however does. Now I also want to point out the fact that these are going to hold two boards together. They're not going to force two boards together. So if you put two boards together and they're loosely and then you screw it shut, they're not going to be tight. You really need to press the joint together and then screw it shut to make sure everything's nice and aligned. Now like I did show you, depending on the size thicknesses, whether they're the same thickness or two different thicknesses, because that jaw is going to pivot left to right, it's going to allow you to pull two different thicknesses together and fasten them, and it's still going to do that with a perfect 90-degree angle. If you like this video, please click like. If you like my channel, please click subscribe. And thanks for watching.